Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, all you rock dwellers. Welcome, all you with white privilege. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada, and that's my good friend Sharon Angle.
With that, Sharon, our first guest is with us. Please make that introduction.
Well, it's a pleasure to introduce David Harsanyi, who is the senior editor at The Federalist, a nationally syndicated columnist and author of The People Have Spoken, and They Are Wrong, The Case Against Democracy. And his latest book is First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun. David's work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Weekly Standard, National Review, Reason, New York Post, and numerous other publications. David has appeared on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, ABC World News Tonight, NBC Nightly News, and dozens of radio talk shows across the country. David, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you. My bio sounds far more impressive than I actually am. I got to pare that down.
Yeah, well, we like it here. We like to let people know that our guests have credibility, that when we ask them questions, they have expertise in the areas that they've written about. And one of those is an article that you've written. The media have done tremendous damage to the country and themselves. You start out with, for the past 2 years, a large swath of the media engaged in a mass act of self-deception and partisan groupthink. There's no way we could have said that better, David. It does seem like they just have these talking points and they just keep going over and over, and it doesn't matter what the facts are. Talk to us a little bit about how they're damaging themselves with that.
Well, I should take a step back and say that I'm not opposed to an aggressive press, an antagonistic press, even against whoever's in power. That's the problem, of course, is that it's not the same. It depends who's in power and how they act. So it wasn't just the bias. We're used to bias within the normal parameters of bias. We know how to look at stories. We know how to read stories. We know how they're framed. This was something else. This was a bunch of political journalists, investigative journalists, trusting biased sources and leaks to perpetuate a story that was meant to undermine the government and in the end to replace the president. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan, but there's no other way to look at this. And I think they damaged the country because for 2 years we had to go through this. We all know what that's about. But moreover, they damaged themselves and the trust that people have in the media, which is now probably at an all-time low, at least for half the country, deservedly so. There's no introspection about it. There's been no one who said, oh, we've made a mistake. No, they just keep going along as if nothing happened. And I think that's bad for the country. We need a press that investigates people in power. And now it's easy to dismiss them, and rightfully so.
Well, and you're right. They seem to have just ignored the fact that there is no there, that the Mueller investigation is a complete hoax, and yet they're not reporting that.
Well, I mean, they told us the whole time that the Mueller investigation wasn't a hoax, that we should listen to what he has to say. And now he says what he has to say. I mean, there's a quote in the AG Barr letter that quotes Mueller saying there is no proof of any collusion, and they still don't care. They're not going to care what it says. They want to see the whole thing because they want to grasp onto one sentence in there that makes them so that they can continue to perpetrate this idea that the president was a traitor, to the American people. It's not something that's going to end soon, despite the investigation being over.
Well, that was my next question, was that if they continue to pursue this, we have numerous people that we know that their lives have been absolutely ruined by this investigation because the fear of indictment keeps them from being able to hold down a job. So this is just going to continue. We're not going to see any apologies or any really fair reporting on this.
Unlikely. I mean, there have been people who, it's one thing to be skeptical. I've been skeptical about this from the beginning, but it's another thing to say there were people out there, even though they work for smaller outlets like the Federalist, where I work, where Molly Hemingway and Chuck Ross at the Daily Caller and other people did good reporting on this. So shouldn't forget that either. I think the lesson is that we need to that the press is partisan for the most part, and they have a lot more money than others do. So they're the ones we have to rely on quite often to look into things. But that doesn't mean we can't do it ourselves. I think we just have to deal in that reality. There is no unbiased press, and other people are going to have to do it. But no, there will be no apologies for anyone, I can assure you.
And they are going to continue to harass. I feel like it's harassment now. Once the truth has come out and there is no collusion, isn't it harassment? Do you feel like they have a case against the media itself for not accepting the truth and still continuing on this path?
Well, I mean, they have no case to continue on the collusion path. They've never really had any stories that bolster that anyway. I mean, there were a lot of stories that were misreported, that were untrue, and it sort of created this environment. It's basically a panic, a scare. But about the congressional investigations, well, that's Congress has the right to do what it wants to do, but that's a different story. There aren't going to be any indictments handed down unless there's something we don't know about. It is harassment, and the president's just going to have to deal with it. I don't think that Adam Schiff or folks like that have much credibility left for anyone who's actually honest with themselves. So I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. In fact, I think it could help the president in the long run.
So do you feel like now the alternative media, that's kind of who we are. We have been saying for a long time that these guys are biased, they're liars, they are agenda driven. Do you think that we will see a surge then of alternative news opportunities?
I think you're seeing that happening now. There are a lot of good sites out there, conservative sites that do good reporting. The problem will always be, that a site like the Federalist, we don't have the money to say to dedicate a reporter to a year-long investigation, or something like that. When I worked at a mainstream newspaper, we could do that. We would take two reporters, and they would spend 6 months on one story. We can't do that sort of thing. So we'll always be at a disadvantage. But because of democratized media and the way everyone can chime in, we don't have to so readily believe everything. We could be skeptical of the media. And I think that that's what happened. And it's not even, it's about Donald Trump, of course, but it's something bigger than that. If we can't trust journalists to tell us the truth about what's going on in positions of power, that's detrimental to the whole country. Because next time, let's say Donald Trump did do something, next time they're after him, he could just dismiss them, and we maybe believe it, because why wouldn't we? They've been unfair to the president. So I think that's really the sort of problem. People don't see past the next partisan fight. And this is more important than that. But we have to live in reality. So yes, I think alternative media has to pick up some of that slack for sure.
Well, you don't cut these guys any slack. You call them a bunch of crackpots. You're not at all kind about your wording in your article. It seems like you are fed up with what's been going on with journalism and actually the bad name that they, as you said, given themselves over this.
Well, I wrote a story in January of 2017. I wrote, this story that you're telling me about Russia and Donald Trump being a spy since 1987 does not sound plausible to me, right? Immediately, you're called a traitor. For 2 years, I had people calling me, my parents defected from Soviet Russia, yet I was called a Russian stooge all the time. So, yeah, I'm a little bit fed up because, by the way, it wasn't just some troll on Twitter saying this. You had people who wrote for major publications saying it. They were wrong, and we were right about this. But yet they won't even concede that anymore. So their hatred of Trump goes well beyond anything that's reasonable. So, yeah, I think if you believe that, I grew up in New York watching Donald Trump. If you believe he's been a Russian agent all these years, just waiting to be president so he could do, I don't even know to do what. He hasn't been any friendlier towards Russia than Obama probably. Then you'll believe anything. And if one thing you should do as a journalist, I don't care if you're an opinion journalist, I don't care if you're, whatever you are, is be skeptical when someone gives you a story that sounds perfect. I always knew in the newspaper when someone was maybe making something up is when the story ended perfectly, just as they wanted, just perfectly comported with all their beliefs in the world. That seems unlikely to me, and this story was unlikely from the beginning. So yeah, call them crackpots. That's what they are.
Well, and it sounds like you've received a share of this persecution just because you wouldn't go along with the mainstream. We need to take a break, David Harsanyi, and we want you to stay with us through that break. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM FM 24/7. And now you can watch our TV show on the AUN TV network in Northern California. We'll be right back with our guest, David Harsanyi, who's been talking about the media have done themselves tremendous damage. They've done damage to the country and to themselves. We'll be here with him as well as Rick Trader, and I'm Sharon Angle.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie. The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right to vote.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharon Engel. Want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Long Beach, California, and seen on the AUN television network in places like San Francisco. Our guest this segment is David Hersani. He's a senior editor at The Federalist. We're discussing an article that David has written. The media have done tremendous damage to our country and to themselves. David, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time. David, you write in your article, while bad behavior from partisan sources should be expected, and then you also write, the natural disposition of journalists, even opinion journalists, should be skepticism. But you also said to Sharon in the first segment, we can't trust journalists. I mean, David, you know, when I was a kid, I used to think, well, if you read it in the paper, it's true. Not necessarily, but that's what I was led to believe. But today, it's even less true than at any time ever before. Am I correct in that?
I think I'd push back a little. I mean, if you look at the founding generation, the first generation in America, a lot of newspapers were very partisan, made up a lot of stories, peddled rumors, you know, things of that nature. I don't know that this is new. I get a lot of people romanticizing the time when I was a kid, for instance, when you had 3 stations giving us all the news, Walter Cronkite, you know, Dan Rather, whoever. I think those people were biased too. We just couldn't really fight back. There was no place other than a few outlets or a magazine like National Review where you could actually be critical. So we were just sort of force-fed this news. There's a lot of downsides to what's going on now, but there is also an upside. The upside is they can't get away with it anymore. So I think it's important to remember that, and remember that all this technology helps us in some ways. But yes, I mean, obviously there are still mainstays, blue chip journalists, big outlets, and those people, especially when it comes to political journalism, there are still many really good journalists out there. We have to remember that. But when it comes to political journalism, we obviously have a problem. We have people pretending to be unbiased who are not. And that's one thing. But then we have people peddling ridiculous conspiracy theories about Russia winning our election, which there is not any proof of, undermines our trust in institutions, and that's dangerous.
David, you also write in the article, every time a story was debunked, we were told that reporters, like all humans, make mistakes. But am I right or wrong in thinking, David, in times past when those mistakes were found out, they would at least offer a retraction somewhere buried in the back of the paper? But now they don't make retractions. They just make excuses. And I think that we're seeing that even today with the Mueller report being out, that they're not talking about what is in the Mueller report, but what is not in the Mueller report, and what we're not being told about what's in the Mueller report. It's like never-ending excuses. Am I right about that?
I think you're partially right, yeah. And another problem with this is that there are mistakes constantly, big, giant scoops that everyone was excited about that turned out to be wrong. Every single one, or almost every single one of those mistakes always skews in the same direction. That's impossible. If you're constantly making the same mistakes all the time, that means there's something wrong in the culture of the newsroom. In the culture of these newsrooms, I think the problem is that they're very ready to believe things that comport with their, worldview, and that's a big problem. So for the Mueller report, I mean, you're right. We were told for years that we have to let the report finish, that we shouldn't rush things, that Mueller has to do his job, and now even though he's helping with the redactions, and he has not contested what Barr said about the report, everyone's pretending that there's some big cover-up. They want to have it both ways all the time, and it's that inconsistency that and listen, not everyone in the media, but many people, it's that inconsistency that makes me not trust them anymore. And there's really no other way to put it but that they've corrupted their own professionalism.
David, when you talk about that you don't trust them anymore, and you write in here, and you were talking about Sharon with this, that you're no fan of Trump's use of the words enemy to the people to attack the media. But David, some people like me might think, okay, maybe enemy of the people is strong and to use, and maybe not politically correct, but by and large has an element of truth in it.
I think that obviously he gets a lot of traction, the president, with enemy of the people and fake news because a lot of it is true. Sometimes he uses it because he just doesn't like what the news is. We have to be honest about that. But often he has a point, especially with the Mueller investigation. He had a very good point. My problem with enemy of the people is that it's a bit over the top for the president, even if people are lying about him, even if they are undermining him in unfair ways. It has historical relevance. Enemy of the people was used by many strongmen and things like that to attack the free press. I just worry that we don't want to go overboard. He's won this battle. I don't think he needs to use that kind of language. But listen, I don't think it's the end of the world. Everyone understands he means fake news is the enemy of the people, not every single journalist. But I'm just not crazy about that phrase, and I don't think he needs to use it. But it has traction because, yes, as you mentioned, there's a lot of truth to his complaints about the political media.
Fair enough. David Harsanyi, senior editor at The Federalist. David, alt media, would you call The Federalist alt media?
I think so. And I think we're honest about our biases, and I think that's important,
Well, David, you also mentioned that you guys don't have a lot of money, and certainly here at the Conservative Commandos, we don't have any money. We actually don't get paid for what we do. But David, why don't organizations like the Federalist or even Conservative Commandos get more support from the people who read us, watch us, listen to us? It seems like the Democrat side, the liberal side, are very good at supporting their candidates, their media, not so much on the conservative side. Am I reading that wrong, or what could we do differently to change that?
Well, I think people have to understand. Well, it's a complicated answer, I think. For one, you've heard of the march through the institutions. I think that the left has marched through the universities for the most part, has marched through the media companies for the most part, the producers, the ad men, all these people are predominantly liberal. So Coca-Cola, and I'm just making Coca-Cola, I'm just picking them out of the hat.
Right.
Will never be pressured not to advertise on some left-wing show, let's say Samantha Bee's show on TBS, but they will easily be bullied into not, let's say, putting an ad in the Federalist or wherever because, we don't toe the line on all kinds of political correct stuff. So that's one part of it. And I think a major part of it. I'm not sure that the average Democrat walking around is more supportive of their media than Republicans are. It's just that they have so much of the media infrastructure already that they don't have to worry as much about it, and it's harder to be a conservative.
David Harsanyi, senior editor at The Federalist, we want to thank you so much for joining us. David, before you go, please tell our audience how they could follow your work, read your items, and do what I do. I read The Federalist every day.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope people will read The Federalist. We have many interesting writers, I think. And you could follow my work there or follow me on Twitter at David Harsanyi. I'm also on Facebook if you want to see my work there. Thank you.
David, again, thank you for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharon Angle. And for rebroadcast, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You can get replays of our radio show or TV show, read a lot of great articles, pick up a lot of terrific information. Sharon, our next guest is with us. The honor of the introduction is yours.
It is an honor to introduce Colonel Douglas McGregor, who is a decorated combat veteran, an author of 5 books, and a PhD. McGregor was commissioned in the U.S. Army after 1 year at the Virginia Military Institute and 4 years at West Point. Colonel McGregor served as the director of Joint Operations Center during the Kosovo Air Campaign in 1999. He is widely recognized as an expert on organizational design and grand strategy, and he's also a frequent radio and television commentator on national security affairs. Colonel McGregor, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're excited about this topic, actually. We want to talk to you about the national security crisis and medical emergency from the migrant caravans on our southern borders. And I guess probably the most interesting piece is that so many people make the erroneous assumption that all of these migrants are coming from Mexico or Central America, but that's not true, is it?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, in addition to the tens of thousands that are being mobilized, prepared, and then sent north in caravans by people on the ground in El Salvador and Nicaragua and other parts of Central America, as well as in Mexico, we also have operating in Mexico, literally just across the border from the United States, Hezbollah. And Hezbollah, which is the Iranian-backed terrorist organization in Lebanon, does a land office business in Central America. They're trading in drugs, involved in human trafficking, and they move people who are ultimately agents for their organization into the United States all the time. And to these, you have to add unknown but large numbers of Chinese illegals who come in on a routine basis. In fact, some 300 were discovered in a barn recently in Texas. So the bottom line is this is about more than just tens of thousands of poor, unskilled people coming to the United States and leaving their home countries at the behest, by the way, of their governments. It's also about all sorts of unsavory characters and people who are, frankly, interested in doing us harm, pouring into the United States.
So when the president says that this open border is a security problem and is an emergency security problem, he's not far off the mark, is he?
Oh, not at all. In fact, one of the things that's so frustrating is that people act in Washington right now as though there are hundreds of thousands of Russian troops massing on the borders with Poland or Ukraine or somewhere else preparing to attack the West. That's untrue. There are no such armies. There are no Chinese armies massing on the borders with Vietnam prepared to strike into Southeast Asia. There are none in Manchuria prepared to intervene in North Korea. In fact, there is no threat from North Korea at all anymore. And so if you look at these, we've got tens of thousands of troops sitting around in Europe and in Northeast Asia with, frankly, nothing useful to do. To these must be added another 10,000, 15,000 operating in the Middle East, another 10,000 or so in Africa. All of these troops are badly needed on our border. They could put a stop to this very quickly. The president is the commander-in-chief. We've been on the border before. The Army was there for almost 100 years, from 1846 to 1948. All he has to do as the commander-in-chief is order the Army to the border and to take control of it and to secure it, which means stopping anyone trying to enter the United States, period, until the president decides otherwise.
Well, so we've talked about our enemies, and we do have a few, as we've noted just in our short talk here. There are plenty that are wanting to get into the country to do us harm, just like they did in 9/11. But there's also this other thing, two other things, I guess, and they're epidemic things. The first one is infectious disease, and the second is the opioid crisis. Talk about those two things in terms of national security.
Okay, well, in terms of national security, first of all, you have a number of diseases which have been largely eliminated here in the United States, in Europe, in Canada, and in Korea and Japan, and most of China, that ultimately still persist in the so-called developing world. As strange as it may seem, in Mexico, this includes things like bubonic plague, not just polio, not just measles, not just typhoid, meningitis, all these other things, but really terrible diseases that we're not prepared to defeat here inside the United States. For some reason, the Center for Disease Control is not talking about it. I suspect that must be by design. I know that we've got 2,000 people at least in quarantine right now. But we were very, very careful through most of our history to keep people out that we knew were deathly ill. And today you absolutely cannot enter Korea or Japan or China if anyone thinks that you're ill at all, because there, of course, the potential for these diseases to spread, given the density of the population, is enormous. So that's the first thing. I think it's also important for people to understand when they talk about this massive influx of potential unskilled labor into the United States, that just this year alone, 5,900 stores, retail stores and businesses in the United States have closed. That's more than went bankrupt or went out of business last year. Think about the numbers of jobs that have been lost as a result of that. So we're not in a robust economy that could absorb these people in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you know, when you talk about things like bubonic plague, you know, that seems like a 200 years ago disease, something that, you know, kind of went the way of smallpox, and yet you're saying it's kind of on our border and could be coming in. When you talk about 2,000 people being quarantined, is it for that kind of disease? What diseases are we quarantining right now?
Well, the diseases that I listed have been mentioned, but right now it's very difficult to find out exactly what the people have who are in quarantine, and I suspect that's by design. I mean, no one wants to panic the American population, but Americans should be damn concerned about this, because you're talking school children in the United States of tender age who are at risk if these people are simply allowed to move into the population. And then, of course, you've got this other old problem that we thought we had largely gotten rid of, or at least brought under control, and that's HIV. Some of your listeners will remember the Mariel boat lift that came to us thanks to President Carter from Cuba. And they brought, in addition to tens of thousands of people who were ill with various diseases, lots of criminals. But one of the things that several thousand people brought to the United States from Cuba at that point was HIV. And we had a full-blown AIDS epidemic that took us years to finally bring under control. We don't know whether or not people coming into the country at this point are HIV positive because we've stopped testing for it. President Obama directed that stop. And so we don't know, again, of those who are actually slipping through, how many of them are actually HIV positive.
So this political correctness that we've got ourselves mired in could be the death of us, literally, couldn't it?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is where political correctness makes absolutely no sense.
Absolutely none. I wanted to talk a little bit about drug trafficking and sex trafficking. There seems to be a whole illegal cartel situation going on that just moves pretty much freely across our borders all the time.
Well, we know that on average of the women that come north out of Mexico, that roughly 80% of them, ages 12 to 50, are raped. That is despicable. It's appalling. And it should stop. But we have no control south of the border. Remember, there is no rule of law south of the border. I mean, if you sit down and talk to people that have come up here legally from Mexico or El Salvador or Nicaragua or these places, they will be very straightforward with you. They will tell you what those societies are like. There's a reason why most of these so-called migrants live in fear of the police. They expect the police in the United States to treat them the way they're treated at home, which means they'll be raped, they'll be brutalized, abused, they'll be robbed and assaulted. This is a large catastrophe for us. And when you talk about the drug trafficking, I think the president mentioned the 50, 60,000 Americans last year who died of opioid addiction. Once again, that's probably the tip of the iceberg. We don't know how many people are ultimately dying of drug overdoses from various kinds of drugs that come in through this border. And part of, one of the things that I thought was so interesting is to listen to the opponents say, well, look at all the drugs that we stopped at the legal crossing points. And that's not as much as you say. Well, that's what we know about. There are vast areas of that border. If you've been down to New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Southern California, there are many, many areas that the Border Patrol cannot cover. They don't have the agents, and adding more agents won't help. They're already overwhelmed at the legal crossing points because we've decided to take seriously this ridiculous assertion that these people are here for asylum. No, they're not. They're coming up here to exploit our social welfare system and to become voters. And we know who they're being brought in to vote for.
Well, it's a terrible situation. I'm glad that our president is starting to address it, and I'm glad that you're here to explain some of this to us. We have to take a short break now. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. You can also watch us on the AUN TV network. We've been talking with Colonel Douglas McGregor, who is a decorated combat veteran, the author of 5 books and a PhD, and he's an expert on organizational design and grand strategy. He's been talking to us about the border, national security crisis, and medical emergency from migrant caravans on our southern border. We'll be right back after this short message.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials. and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharon Angle, and our guest is Colonel Douglas McGregor, retired, a decorated combat veteran, author of 5 books, and he's widely recognized as an organization expert on organizational design and grand strategy. Colonel McGregor, thank you for holding through that break, but more importantly, thank you for your service to our country, sir.
Oh, sure. No thanks necessary.
You know, Colonel, over 75,000 illegals are at the borders in February of 2019. 1 million illegals will be apprehended at the borders in 2019. How is this not an emergency? I don't understand. You know,
well, we've got a couple of problems, Rick. And let's be frank, there are lots of Americans in the United States who live remote from these problems. I mean, if you go down to New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Southern California, people will be very frank with you. They will tell you the horror stories associated with the people coming across, the damage they do. And remember, we have lots of Americans who own land along the border, and they have been victims of this sort of illegal migration into the United States for many years. It's just gotten consistently worse because the left in this country, the politicians on the left, have sent a clear message. By all means, come north. If you come north, we'll get you in. If you come here, we'll take care of you. We'll set you up, and we'll find a way for you to vote as soon as possible in the next election. Wow. That's the problem. On the one hand, complacency, admittedly, but on the other hand, large numbers of people who see this as a way to permanently destroy the value of American citizenship and, to be blunt with you, the value of an American vote.
Who are those people?
Well, they're on the left. everyone from Bernie Sanders to Ocasio-Cortez to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, every one of them is involved in this process. This is their way of defeating any comers in perpetuity. In other words, this is the opportunity to build a human foundation of people coming in from the developing world, overwhelmingly from Latin America, but also, as Sharon and others have pointed out, coming in from Africa, the Near East, the Indian subcontinent. These are people that can become part of this foundation of voters that will give them a permanent majority. At which point in time, those of us Americans, I'm not talking about hyphenated Americans, just Americans, those of us who were born here and live here, have served in the armed forces, have worked hard, those that came here legally after many, many years of struggle, suddenly our votes are neutralized. We're neutralized. That's the problem. Because when that happens, we cease to be the American Republic.
You know, Colonel, I actually think there are others other than the left who want to destroy our way of life, who want to destroy our culture, who want to destroy the United States. Let me explain where I'm coming from. I'm old enough to remember Nikita Khrushchev being in New York at the United Nations, banging his shoe on the table saying, "We will bury you." I remember that. I also remember back in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan wanted to put defensive missiles in Europe, demonstrations in Europe by a group called the Women on the Greenham Common, later finding out that was financed and instigated by the Soviet Union. Now we have a guy, Vladimir Putin, who is a former KGB officer, who I don't think has any great love for the United States, would love to return to the days of the Soviet Union. And I just wonder if there isn't a group, a foreign activity, that's also working with the left to destroy this country. Colonel, am I, once again, thinking too far outside this box?
Well, I think you probably are looking in the wrong direction. Our friend Putin has enough trouble at home right now. To make mischief over here is much tougher. The Chinese, on the other hand, are different. The Chinese, obviously, if they can bring in more and more Chinese into the United States that can then infiltrate and work in our businesses, and particularly in federal offices. I mean, all you have to do is take a trip to the Pentagon or the State Department, and you will find Chinese citizens who are IT experts working for the United States government. And then everyone stands around and expresses shock and disbelief that somehow or another our secret plans, our technologies are being stolen. I think that's more of a problem. But the largest problem of all is really a network of people like George Soros, who are committed Marxists, who see the destruction of the United States and of Western Europe as a means to an end, of creating what they think will be this global society and the planet. It's really a pathway to universal poverty and despair for everyone, but they believe firmly that if they can overwhelm the West, overwhelm North America, that then they can ultimately dominate the world and dominate our societies and turn us into a true Marxist paradise. That simply means where everyone is equally poor. Right. So I think George Soros is a much more viable source for what you're describing than Mr. Putin.
Well, does his aims sound very similar to the aims of Nikita Khrushchev in the Soviet Union?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Your points are totally valid. Mr. Putin is like so many people in the United States that are extremely wealthy. They can afford to be communists. The rest of us are
not
the
so much.
Target. Yeah, but he can afford that, and he's been pushing that for many, many years. He's a big advocate for the destruction of Israel. He wants the one-state solution, which means that for every Israeli citizen who is a Jew, you have 10 Arabs, at which point in time there's no longer any Israel. And the same thing is true here in the United States. pretty soon there won't be very many Americans left inside the United States if they can ship in enough of these foreigners. And of course, the big falsehood is, well, they'll all become Americans, just give them time. We don't see much evidence for that right now. In fact, we see the opposite. We see hardcore points of foreign culture that is hostile to the United States, hostile to our values, hostile to our way of life, forming across the country. And right now we know that people like Soros are financing buses and transportation to move people that come in this way into the United States very rapidly all over the country, making it that much difficult for us to round them up and expel them.
Why isn't he being investigated, Colonel? Why isn't, we've just went through this mess of investigations. They want to investigate Trump because, he might have been trying to build a hotel in Moscow. All these ridiculous side investigations. We need a true investigation, and that's into guys like George Soros.
I agree with you. No arguments from me.
Colonel, one other thing I wanted to ask you. We appreciate your time. If you have time for one more question, why isn't the president putting more pressure on Mexico, putting more pressure on Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica to keep their people home? Why isn't there more pressure? Why doesn't he cut off all funding? Why doesn't he shut the borders, as he's said? We send so much money south of our border. I would think that would give us some influence, Colonel.
Well, first of all, he's in the process of shutting off the foreign aid, which should have happened a long time ago.
Yes.
Because let's be frank, all of these states south of the border are now organized crime states. The government is a facade, and the drug cartels are controlling everything, and that certainly includes Mexico. But there's another problem here, Rick, and this is a very important one for your listeners to understand. In 1917, we had an event in New Mexico where Pancho Villa and his rebellious army from Mexico actually attacked into the United States, killed some American citizens, including soldiers in the United States Army, burned a town, and then rode back into Mexico. The President of the United States responded by putting 100,000 National Guardsmen on the border to close it, and then sent 10,000 U.S. troops from the regular army into Mexico. Now, their stated goal was supposedly to find Pancho Villa, but their real mission was to drive the chaos, the criminality south and away from the American border. They spent several months down there until finally we felt that the border was secure, and then they came back and we withdrew the National Guardsmen, and the regular army went back to its usual mission on the border. I think at that point we knew we were Americans. We knew what it meant to be an American. We understood what the rule of law meant. We understood what damage to our population meant. We would not tolerate people who killed American citizens. I think President Trump has made the same kind of argument, but he has not gotten the support from the Congress. And the only way to explain some of that is, as you've said, there are people there who really want our country to fail. And then secondly, I think that we have people sitting on the Hill who are being paid, literally, by various foreign lobbies to oppose what is in the interest of the American people.
That's incredible. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos. Please tell our audience how they could follow what you do.
Well, listen, I've got a website, and anybody that Googles my name, Douglas Macgregor, Colonel, will end up at the website. It's also called futuredevents.com. But I would tell your listeners, look, you really need to get mad as hell. You need to call congressmen and senators. You need to call the White House. You need to register your anger. That's the best way to make things happen. Americans are frustrated because they don't think they're represented in Washington. And they're not wrong. But there's a way to correct that. You start calling. It scares these politicians. It scares them because they're right. They know that for every one person who calls, there are 10 more out there that agree with them. And if you want this to stop, if you want the border to be controlled, call up and say, why isn't the U.S. Army on the border? Why aren't we stopping this? That's how we win.
Colonel, let me just follow that up with this. This is the telephone number you can call to reach your member of the House of Representatives, to reach your senator. The number is 202-225-3121, 202-225-3121. They'll ask you your address so they can hook you up with your member, with your representation. Make that call. Tell these people, support the president, stop this emergency. But Colonel, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Same to you. God bless America.
Amen to that. And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. Sharon and I will be back with more right after this break.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1 and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharon Engel here with our co-host, George Landreth. And we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio studios with a shout out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. And I'd like to introduce our first guest today. This is Dr. Michael Brown, who is the host of a nationally syndicated Line of Fire radio program. His latest book is Donald Trump is Not My Savior. An evangelical leader speaks his mind about the man he supports as president. Dr. Brown, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure always. You posted, "So much evil, mommy, those poor babies." What is that about? Talk to us a little bit, Dr. Michael Brown.
Yeah, I have really been encouraging folks to go and see the movie Unplanned, a movie that many have said could be like the Uncle Tom's Cabin for the pro-life movement, just as that turned the hearts of Americans against slavery. And on behalf of the slaves, may this movie turn hearts on behalf of the unborn. And I had seen Unplanned before it came out. I got a private release and watched it home and was deeply moved, sobbing uncontrollably at one point, so moved by the content. So actively promoting, actively encouraging folks to see it. And then on my social media, on Ask Dr. Brown, on Facebook and elsewhere, I said to folks, if you went and saw the movie, this was last weekend when it opened, and it opened way bigger than anyone was expecting at the box office, with a great response from the viewers. So I said, if you went to see the movie, tell us about your experience. Tell us about what happened. How were you impacted? So we began to hear from dozens and dozens of people who were there, who were posting their experiences, and one after another deeply moved and incredible stories, and parents with teenagers and the teens' hearts being changed. And then this one, a mother said, I went with my 11-year-old daughter. You say it's rated R. The rating R is because Hollywood does not like the pro-life movement. That's why it's rated R.
That's true.
So if your kids understand what abortion is, if they're old enough to understand and discuss it, they're old enough to see the movie. So she was there with her 11-year-old daughter. At the end of the movie, when they leave, the daughter begins sobbing uncontrollably, holding on to her mother, saying, those poor babies, so much evil, mommy, those poor babies. Then everyone needs to see this movie. And then the mother tells her story, that she was going to abort that very girl at the age of 12 weeks. And she was there in the abortion clinic when she decided against doing it. So that child wouldn't even exist. That child would have been yet another casualty to abortion. So I wrote the article sharing the experiences of different people, others emphasizing the message of love and grace and forgiveness that came through it. But I wanted people to see how impacting it was, especially on a child.
So much evil out of the mouths of babes, really, isn't it, Dr. Michael Brown? We have become so calloused in our culture toward the killing of babies that we don't even talk about infanticide or murder when it comes to the abortion industry, but that's exactly what's going on. And this little child was able to see it so clearly.
Yeah, and one other thing that comes out loud and clear through the movie is Planned Parenthood is big business. Planned Parenthood is a money-making industry, and they make the bulk of their money, their greatest profits they make from abortion. And here's what's interesting. Planned Parenthood is big. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of connections with a lot of powerful people. If this movie was not accurate, if this movie lied them, misrepresented them, spoke falsehoods about them, misportrayed them, you better believe that the producers and everybody having anything to do with this movie would absolutely be slammed with lawsuits and things like that. But they're not forthcoming. Why? Because the movie tells the truth. It is evil. It is ugly. And by the way, if you walk in front of an abortion clinic and there are pro-life workers there, and maybe they're holding up a sign of an aborted baby, that's as gruesome or even more gruesome than anything you're going to see in the movie. It's just the simple reality of what happens with an abortion. And if you know the story of Abby Johnson, and I had her on my show earlier this week to talk about the amazing exposure God's given to her ministry. This is a true story. She was the youngest Planned Parenthood clinic director in America. She had won Employee of the Year award, and she had been a professing Christian. And you see in the movie that many of the women involved in Planned Parenthood and involved in the clinics, they actually think they're doing good. They actually think this is a helpful thing. We're helping women. We're helping young mothers. We're helping older mothers. This is a good thing that we're doing. So she begins to have some questions, and then she's asked, after all her years working there, to go in the back and to help out with an abortion and to just hold the ultrasound, so the wand for the ultrasound, to hold that so that the doctor can see how he's aborting the baby. Just that scene. It's not gruesome in terms of what you see, but the shock of it, the reality of what happens in an abortion is so overwhelming that people are devastated, people are speechless. But this has happened by the millions. Abby Johnson realized that in her years as a Planned Parenthood worker and director, she had participated one way or another in 22,000 abortions. But consciousness is rising. More and more young people are pro-life. They're realizing, hey, that they see the ultrasound. That's a baby there. I could have had a brother. I could have had a sister. I didn't have to be an only child. Eyes are opening. Even recent polls indicate that hearts are turning. The number of abortion clinics in America is about 1/3 of what it was at the height of the pro-abortion movement. So we can turn the tide, and the unplanned movie can really be a key to open hearts and minds.
Well, it's amazing to me because you had to establish its credibility as a movie by telling us if it wasn't true, they would have sued. But it is the true story of Abby Johnson, isn't it? It's not a made-up story. It's not something that Hollywood has said, well, this needs to be produced, so we'll make up a story. How much is Hollywood? How much of it did they make up, or did Abby Johnson discuss that with you?
No, it's her story. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have someone that's a perfect look-alike or every detail exactly the same, but it's her story. In fact, Ashley Bratcher, who took the lead role and was warned, you're going to destroy your career and you're never going to get another invitation to act after this. You know, that's the level of opposition and intimidation and numerous other things trying to stop the movie from even happening, let alone get the exposure it's gotten. But she read Abby Johnson's story. She read her book. She imbibed what Abby Johnson's life was like. She spoke with her frequently during the shooting. In fact, that key moment with the ultrasound where the light goes on and she realizes exactly what happens in an abortion and realizes I can't participate in this anymore. She constantly thought about what Abby Johnson said. She constantly thought about what she had written so that she could take that in. In fact, when I asked Abby how it felt to see herself being portrayed in this way, I know that here and there, I've done something on a Christian TV network and they want to reenact part of my testimony where I got saved or something, or just have an act, some actor doing something. You look at it, it's like, that's not real. That's not me. Here's an actual movie, a Hollywood movie, a well done movie. When I say Hollywood, well produced and all of that. And Abby said the hard part for her, she said, think of the most embarrassing, sinful things you've ever done in your life, and now everyone is going to watch them on the big screen. So that's how real the story is, and it gives a real picture of Planned Parenthood. It's not exaggerated. And Abby's whole ministry is a pro-life ministry, but they have helped many, many, many people leave the abortion industry, and they have seen abortion clinics close. They've even worked now with 7 abortion doctors that got right with God and left, and now they're part of Abby Johnson's larger ministry network.
Well, we have to take a short break. I know George is on the other side. He wants to talk to you about this. He's seen the movie. And I want you to, on the other side, explain why they call this movie Unplanned. We are talking with our guest, Michael Brown, Dr. Michael Brown, about the latest showing, the upcoming movie, the one that's out in theaters near you right now, Unplanned. And we're also coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can see us on our TV show on the AUN TV network in Northern California. George and I will be right back with Dr. Michael Brown.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth with Sharon Engel. We're your Conservative Commandos host today, and we are glad you stuck around. We've got a great interview with Dr. Michael Brown. We're partway through it, but we've got lots more to discuss. Just to remind you, if you want to check out our websites, hear a rebroadcast of our show, or watch a rebroadcast of the television show, check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrshow.com. It's all there. We truly are everywhere, so you can catch us in, I guess, everywhere but maybe China, North Korea, and Iran, where I'm sure they find a way to edit us out because the truth hits them too hard. But for the rest of the world, we're there. Well, we've been talking with Dr. Michael Brown, and he is the host of a nationally syndicated program. It's a radio program called Line of Fire. And he has a book out, which is Donald Trump is Not My Savior. An evangelical leader speaks his mind about the man he supports as president. And so with that, thank you, Dr. Brown, for sticking around and for spending some time with us on the Conservative Commandos. I wanted to pick up this interview with the movie, kind of its impactful nature. I think sometimes movies that are poignant are more difficult to pull off. I would argue it's much easier to pull off a superhero movie. The acting doesn't have to be quite as good. There's not the risk that it will come across as corny or that you won't quite, make the connection on something that's kind of deep and poignant. And so I thought this was what I would call a high difficulty, high risk movie. At least that was my take. And so I was prepared to kind of be glad they did the movie, but also prepared to acknowledge that they hadn't come, that they weren't going to get a 10 on they didn't stick the landing, so to speak. But both my wife and I felt that it was powerful and that it was really well executed. So it's not just an important true story. It's a well-told story. And so to me, I don't know if you saw it that way or if you agree with my assessment, but I thought they stuck the landing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For those who want a mile a minute of constant, like the superhero action in the sky falling. No, it's not meant to be a movie like that. But I was just thinking about the idea of the way it unfolds, where you see Abby Johnson. She's there. She's running the clinic and all this, and it's pretty early in the movie that the pivotal moment happens. That's what caught me so off guard, and I was so devastated by that scene. I thought, well, that's going to be later in the movie. So it's one of those things where it takes you to the key point, and now let's go back and get you to this point. So even the way it was executed, I thought that was a brilliant strategy to do it like that. I thought the people played their roles well, and the Christian workers were there. They were just kind of regular people that loved the Lord and were praying. They weren't these superstars. You had others that were there that were a bit obnoxious and preaching a condemning message, and you didn't have sympathy towards them. The Planned Parenthood workers, as I said, they genuinely thought they were helping women and doing the right thing, and you didn't really see the evil of it, the business side, until you saw more of the senior leadership and what was motivating them. So it portrayed characters realistically, and here I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, and if you're in the Lord, you're in the Lord, and that's it. And the fact that Abby Johnson was professing to be a Christian and saying it's fine to do what she does and justifying it, at the abortion clinic, and that she's married to a Christian man and her parents don't like it. I thought, that's real life. I hate the fact that you've got compromise, but that's real life. That's a lot of people. They're living in moral and spiritual compromise. So yeah, if it had been just totally hokey and poorly acted and poorly put together, even with a powerful message, it's just like listening to good preaching with a bad sound system. It gets a little screechy and it's a little hard to hear. So I agree with you. It was well executed, it was well acted, and it was anointed by God. And what was portrayed wisely. It was enough to convey the reality of things without overdoing the blood and the gore, but enough that I believe many lives are going to be changed and many lives are going to be saved.
I agree. One of the things I thought was interesting about the movie was there's also a message of faith and redemption in the movie, which I think is very important to being a Christian. That if you miss that part of Christianity, it's like you miss really the whole point. That's why Christ did what he did. We call him the Redeemer, the Savior. That's because it's who he is. It's what he did. But
what's interesting, George, is whenever I talk about this on the radio, inevitably I'll get phone calls from listeners and viewers, and they will get on the phone with me and break down sobbing and weeping about an abortion they had 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Or it could be a man saying, I paid for my girlfriend's abortion. One of my friends, a white friend, was at a black showing of Unplanned. So he was probably the only white guy there. It was an all black congregation, and they did a preview screening of the movie. And my white friend said, Mike, it was great. It was like a church service. They're talking back to the screen, and they're, amen, and reacting and responding. When it was done, a man came over to him sobbing and said, how many decades ago I paid for an abortion? And he was so guilt-ridden that he finally found a release to get this out and to receive forgiveness and cleansing. Even a lot of Christians, at one point in their life, before they were saved or at a bad time in their lives as believers, they had an abortion. And on the one hand, they know they're forgiven, but this thing still hangs over their heads. They still feel as if I'll never really be right with God. And if God can forgive an Abby Johnson, God can forgive any of us. And yes, there's a wonderful message of grace, redemption, forgiveness. And my hope is that many who had abortions in the past and are sorry for today, that they'll find healing for their wounds as well.
Absolutely. I thought that was one. I mean, the movie was powerful from start to finish, but it had a number of powerful themes that I thought it really executed well. And it gave you a good contrast because you had some kind of what you might call almost angry, hateful pro-life protesters. And then you had some that were actually clearly devoted followers of Christ. And while they opposed abortion, they didn't oppose or hate the people that were involved with it. And that turned out to be very crucial to Abby's story and how she was able to, if you will, come to the light, see the light. The fact that there had been some people in her life that weren't hateful and calling her names, but instead were actually nice people.
One of my
showing
friends,
forth love.
Yeah, one of my friends years ago had the privilege of baptizing Norma McCovey, who is better known as the Roe in Roe v. Wade. Right. The whole thing was a sham. The whole thing was a deception. And later she came to faith. But this man is a strong pro-life leader, and he confronted her at every turn, but he always reached out every way he knew how, privately reached out in love. And then ultimately, her heart was turned. So we're still dealing with fellow human beings, and all of us have to remember how much God forgave us. Maybe we didn't participate in abortions, but we've sinned in one way or another, and God had mercy on us. And we always need to say, yes, abortion is sin, abortion is wrong, it's ugly. The blood of the unborn is crying to God. America hangs in a very precarious culture of death, and a large reason for it is the sin of abortion. You wonder how God's even allowed us to stand this long with all the light we have, with all the evil we've done. At the same time, Jesus died to save sinners. Jesus came for the sick, not for the healthy. We need to proclaim hope and life, and then be holistically pro-life people, which the pro-life movement is. In other words, if you can't have that baby, we can work with you to see that baby adopted into a good home. If you want to have that baby, we want to stand with you and help, because we are pro-life people.
Absolutely. Our time's about up, but I want to make sure that you have a chance to tell our listeners how they can follow your work, read the things that you write about. How do they follow Dr. Brown?
Yeah, go to askdrbrown.org, askdrbrown.org. I write normally about 5 new articles a week. We have our daily broadcast 5 days a week. We do live stream on Facebook, YouTube, if it's not on your local radio station. And then we have thousands of hours of free resources, and we're super active on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc. All that you can connect with at askdrbrown.org, askdrbrown.org.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Brown. We really appreciate it. Want to remind our listeners, you're listening to Conservative Commandos, and of course, we are broadcast all across this great nation on the Conservative Commandos radio network, and now on the AUN TV network in California, and I think soon in Nevada. And of course, if you're not near one of those broadcast towers, you can catch us everywhere on Al Gore's amazing internet. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
The AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Hi, this is Rick Manning, and obviously George has gone for the day. He's listening in on this last segment with that we've got with Jeff Small, who's with Western Caucus, your executive director of Western House Western Caucus. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, or for more information, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Also, please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for the Conservative Commandos. Jeff Small, let me ask you a simple question. If somebody wanted to follow the House Western Caucus, how would they do that on Twitter or Facebook?
Very easy. Our Twitter handle is just @Western Caucus.
@Western Caucus. Really a good follow, because if you want to know what's going on in terms of property issues, in terms of a lot of, the federal government controls massive swaths of land across this country, particularly out west. If you want to know about what's being done to try to get the federal government out of the land business and put it back into the private hands and really deal with a lot of issues in terms of land resource management and the like, they're the best follow in America. They truly are the best follow in America. They are leading the charge, and Jeff is the man who is the executive director keeping it all together, and I'm happy to call him a friend. So Jeff, let's talk a little bit about Western Caucus stuff. What exactly do you guys do? Tell people in your words what Western Caucus does.
Yep. Well, you hit on it, Rick, and you're very kind and happy to call you a friend as well, and appreciate your leadership and everything that you do. But Yeah, so the Congressional Western Caucus, we've been around, most people don't know, but we've been around for 25 years, now in our 26th year. And we're actually a bipartisan organization. We've got 74 members right now. We have 2 Democratic members, Kurt Schrader from Oregon, Colin Peterson from Minnesota. And really we think of ourselves as the voice of local communities. I mean, too many people feel like they've been forgotten by Washington. And that's in part why President Trump was elected, right? Because they like someone who, called things like they were, talked about the actual issues, didn't blow, smoke at people. And so we like to think that, and we are arguably the most effective caucus in Congress. We're out here fighting for people every day. The majority of our issues, as you mentioned, are land, energy, water. So, USDA, EPA, DOE, Forest Service, BLM, agriculture, those are kind of the main issues that we work on and we're experts, but we're working on the very issues you described. The federal government footprint is too big. It's over 630 million acres. We saw President Obama, with the stroke of his pen, designate or expand 34 national monuments, more than 530 million acres of land and water that he locked up with the stroke of a pen. So we're out here fighting for, rural Americans and the common man who, has felt like they've been left by Washington.
Well, one of the great ironies is that states like Utah, people don't really think about states like Utah, and they don't really look at them as being very big. You have a grand total of 3 Congress people from Utah, and it's 3, right, or not 4? Well, see, that's how
4. Yep.
4 Congress people from Utah. I forgot one of them. And the Democrat didn't join. The new Democrat didn't join the Western Caucus yet.
He is not, but in fairness, Chairman Gosar has not extended him an invitation. He's pretty selective about who he invites and chooses, and they usually got to agree with our basic philosophies and principles. And so he felt that Kurt Schrader and Peterson met those metrics, and so he invited them, but he has not extended the invitation yet to anyone else on the other side of the aisle.
And that's fair. We've seen so often caucuses lose their purpose as they end up being taken over by people who don't agree with private property rights, for instance, which would be kind of a problem in terms of in terms of being able to bring this caucus together. Okay, so let's talk in general. We've got this force of 74 members who are pushing for at least federal lands policy that returns power to the states, returns power to local communities, and returns power to the people. What are some of the key issues that you guys are focusing on?
Yeah, no, that's I appreciate raising that. And so one of the biggest issues that we did last Congress was we rolled out a package to modernize the Endangered Species Act. And a lot of that was about empowering local stakeholders, returning control to states and local governments, and utilizing local conservation efforts that are taking place, allowing those to count. That's one of the ways Chairman Gosar himself, we just were able to get an actual land conveyance signed into law. And so that was a big deal because La Paz County, they literally only have 5% of their entire county is private land. So they have problems finding education, transportation, law enforcement, basic services. But we were able to get a almost 7,000 acre conveyance back to La Paz County that they can use for economic development. We think that's a great model that can be utilized in other counties that are locked up and have too much federal land. And so, the Endangered Species Act is something that we've been pushing, but again, just local solutions. I know you participate in our forum on the Green New Deal, but that's the complete opposite of what we're pushing, right? So the Green New Deal is a Soviet-style takeover of our entire economy and essentially all aspects of American life, as you know. And we're about getting the federal government out of your business, out of your life. We believe that the individual can make the best decisions for their families and for our communities.
Well, and that's one of the things that you and I first got to know each other on, is the idea that that local communities are the ones that should have the maximum power, not the federal government. What most people don't realize is that Representative Gosar was the driver on the House side, and the primary driver, in fact, on a piece of legislation which ended up passing which restricted the federal government's ability, the HUD, Housing Urban Development, ability to take over local zoning. And we called it Obama zoning, and we were able to get through the appropriations bill, something passed which prohibited local zoning from being run from Washington, D.C. And so one thing about Representative Gosar, who's chairman of the House Western Caucus, the one thing about him is he stands pretty firmly on a concept that local government should be doing this as much as possible. The government closest to people governs best, and the federal government should only be involved in those things which are constitutionally required. And so that's how we got to know each other, was working on that initially. And it's one of the great successes because it's still in place today. And believe it or not, some conservative groups now want the federal government to go in and tell localities that they've got to rezone things entirely differently than the left wanted them to do it. So once you give the federal government power to tell locals what to do, it becomes, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you can always figure out a way to get the federal government, if you're in control, to impose their will on localities, whether localities want it or not. And quite honestly, those are decisions that should be made by local governments.
Yep, you're exactly right, Rick. And talking about HUDs, they called it a fair housing rule. It was anything but fair, and you're right. Attempted to allow Washington bureaucrats to make those decisions, and really appreciate your leadership on that issue. I think you're the one that actually put it on our radar, and then we ran with it. But that was a great victory. And real quick, while we're talking about that too, you mentioned one of the other things the Western Caucus is working on. So last Congress, we were successful. We rolled out a different package of bills to overturn just nonsensical regulations imposed by the Obama administration. Many of them were job killing, land grabs, different things from President Obama and his agency minions. And so one of the bills that we were able to get signed into law overturned the BLM Planning 2.0 rule. And that was a big deal because essentially that tried to allow Washington bureaucrats to make land use planning decisions and to take that away from local communities, county commissioners, et cetera, and put that power in Washington, D.C. So Representative Liz Cheney introduced that bill, and we pushed it from the caucus, and that was another big win that we were able to get signed into law and return power to local communities.
And Liz Cheney is now the number 4 person in the House, at least on House House Republican side. I think it's number 3. She has the House Republican Conference chair. So you have making inroads in terms of leadership as well, in terms of the House leadership process. We're up against the break right now, and so you're listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm here with Jeff Small, Executive Director of the House Western Caucus. And we're coming to you from the Conservative Commando Radio Network, broadcast all across this great nation on stations in Florida, California, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Colorado, Wisconsin, and Georgia, and carried around the entire world on Al Gore's amazing internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. prices. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
The AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. I'm Rick Manning. George Landreth is listening. I'm here with the House Western Caucus Executive Director, Jeff Small. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show or for more information, please check out our websites, CCRSnetwork.com and CCRshow.com. And please like us, follow us, friend us, Facebook, Twitter. Just look for Conservative Commandos. You know what to do. You know, Jeff, we've got about 10 minutes left here, and I wanted to just say, you know, we are on the air, over the air in Pennsylvania. And one of the great oddities was when I discovered that the House Western Caucus has members who are in Pennsylvania. Are they from Western Pennsylvania or what? What's up with that?
Well, it's a question that we get often, Rick, but we do have members from more than 30 states and territories. We actually have two members from Pennsylvania. So Representative Glenn G.T. Thompson and Representative Mike Kelly, both great guys. I mean, the reason why they're members of the Western Caucus isn't so much because of the name, right? But it's because of the issues that we focus on. So obviously the Western Caucus is a big proponent of responsible energy production. Coal is big. We just went actually down to Houston last weekend, and we did a tour on our Western Caucus trip. We saw the only carbon sequestration coal plant in the country, and it's one of only two in the world. So, you know, people talk about clean coal. Well, we saw it firsthand. It's an amazing facility, and, you know, they're not producing carbon emissions, and it's really something to see firsthand. So the reason why we have a member from New York, two from Pennsylvania, one from South Carolina, you know, all throughout the country, and it's because, you know, they're united with us in fighting federal overreach, modernizing the Endangered Species Act, sensible land and water policy. It's the individual liberty, freedom. It's the things that, you know, reason why we're friends, and the things that unite Americans throughout the country are a reason they're a member of the Western Caucus.
Well, makes perfect sense to me. It's a so the Western is obviously it started as a Western Caucus, but it's really it's about individual liberty caucus and people who view a proper role of government. It happens to take place with land policy being one of the things that really drives it. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, I would say land, water, and energy policy, sensible policy, and empowering, you know, individuals and local communities. That's what we're all about.
As long as we're talking energy policy, you can't really move beyond energy policy and not talk about the Shea and her Green New Deal. You know, this is a little editorial comment by me. I'm going to use editorial privilege here. Let's be clear. America is right now becoming energy dominant. We are the Saudi Arabia natural gas production. We are becoming a juggernaut in terms of oil production. When you look at what happens when you combine Canada, the United States, Mexico's oil potential, and potentially Venezuela's oil potential, we will be, when those things get combined and we're working together, we will be the Middle East of the 21st century in terms of oil and natural gas production. So at a time when energy drives everything economically, why would we ever want to destroy our competitive advantage right now? We're no longer in a time of scarcity. Because of capitalism, we're in a time of abundance. And yet the Green New Deal creates scarcity, eliminates our wealth, and we include coal in that, eliminates our wealth, generating energy resources, and puts us at a competitive disadvantage with the rest of the world in every way. It's absurd. And you guys are the ones who are leading the charge against the Green New Deal. Tell us what's happening on that. How is that working? What are you up to on that?
Yep. No, and I appreciate the comment, Rick, and it's a good question. But I mean, you're exactly right. So proponents of the Green New Deal, they want us to be entirely reliant on wind, solar, and electric batteries for our energy needs, and it just doesn't make sense. Wind and solar only produce 7.6 of our electricity needs last year. They're not even talking about nuclear or hydropower. Nuclear is a clean source. It produces about 10% of our electricity right now. Hydropower, same thing, 7%. You mentioned the U.S.
That's an important point. That's an important point. Right now, hydropower, which is dams, remember the environmentalists want to breach the dams, okay? But hydropower is producing as much electricity in the United States as all the other renewables. And by the way, hydropower is renewable. They just don't count it because they want to breach the dams. Okay? Yep. And nuclear produces more, about 50% more of our electricity grid power than all the recyclables, wind and solar combined. And yet they don't want nuclear, even though it's clean, because they don't want nuclear. So the reality is, even things that are carbon neutral, they are against because they're against them. Is that fair?
That's extremely accurate, and it just doesn't make sense to us. I mean, the grid doesn't support moving to 100% wind and solar, let alone by 2030, the unrealistic deadline that AOC's bill calls for. You mentioned the U.S. is now the world leader in natural gas and oil exports. For the first time in multiple decades, we're going to be a net energy exporter, and I can't tell you how important that is in terms of security for this country. That we're not importing tens of millions of dollars of energy from volatile foreign countries that don't share our interests or our values. It's a great thing, and so that's the success story that we're talking about. AOC's plan it's not a realistic plan. No one knows how this would happen. I mean, you'd have to rip out all these furnaces, heaters, houses. Get rid of every combustible engine. Where are we going to put all this trash? That's one thing that makes it very unrealistic. And then if they're going to do, transition to high-speed rail and build that throughout the entire country, I mean, eminent domain is going to be used on such a massive scale. High-speed rail has to be laid in a straight line. So you want to talk about trampling on private property rights? That's what the Green New Deal does. I mean, we all laugh about, many of the things that she put out, wanting to get rid of farting cows and banning airplanes and stuff, but this is a serious threat. I mean, you look at it, there are more than 100 members of Congress on the Democratic side that have co-sponsored this bill. At least 14 Democratic presidential candidates have endorsed the Green New Deal, and they don't think it's a pie in the sky idea like we do. We met with a fairly senior Democratic member recently, and he tried to convince us no, this transition is going to occur. And they genuinely believe it. And we try to tell them, well, no, the transition has already occurred and is occurring. And that's the Trump energy agenda. That's what we're implementing right now. That's why the U.S. was the world leader in emissions reductions in 2015, 16, and 17. And it's because of American ingenuity and individual liberty and freedom and capitalism, as you mentioned.
Yeah, capitalism works. That's the idea. Capitalism equals abundance. Socialism equals scarcity. It's a pretty basic choice America's going to get to make in the next election. But let's just be honest about this. The Democrats in the Senate were given a chance to vote in favor of the Green New Deal. And how many of those Democrats voted yes on the Green New Deal?
Well, they didn't have the guts to stand up for it, and they were discouraged, I think, against taking a public position. But I think we should be more concerned about not who voted for it, but who didn't vote againds it, right?
Absolutely, I agree. But the fact is, they weren't willing to stand up for it. They weren't willing, while it's out there. See, the Green New Deal shows America exactly what they want, what their vision is, and the Democrat presidential candidates voted. And there was a very round number of the number of people who voted in favor of the Green New Deal. And that round number was 0. A very round number. So here's what we got. We've got a deal that they want to push, that they're trying to convince you that that's right for America. And at the same time, they're not willing to vote for.
Yep, and only 2 members of the Democrat Party said this, pie in the sky aspiration, this socialism takeover is a bad idea. The rest, refused to take a position or just, they voted present. But I mean, clearly voting present, that tells you that, they don't think it's a bad idea because they didn't have the courage to vote against it. But it's a bad thing, as you know.
Well, on that note, we're gonna have to wrap up. Our hour is almost completed. But I thank you, Jeff Small, for joining us, Executive Director of the House Western Caucus. How can people follow you again on Twitter?
So on Twitter, we're at Western Caucus. On Facebook, Congressional Western Caucus, and then our website, westerncaucus.house.gov.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jeff. For Rick Manning, I'm Rick Manning. For George Landreth, I want to wish you all a wonderful week, and thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate your listening, your watching on the AUN network, or you're catching us on the internet. Tell a friend. Join us again next week. Thank you very much, and we will see you then.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
The AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, And the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.